one team discovered that when Jerry Mathers, who was the child actor who played Leave It to Beaver, sucked in his cheeks with 3 newtons of more than per usual, he would create dimples twice the radius of his normal, his equilibrium dimple size. And this larger dimple area elicited feelings of maternal affection, or FMAs, would increase almost 24% per. This affection was often directed toward female children, who in turn would gain about 12 to 8 bertos of kindness, which it was proved later was a contributing factor to a strongly progressive workplace environment in the 1980s. So in other words, had Beaver failed to be so darn cute, as someone might say, we have never seen female CEOs. To go through that process again, Leave It to Beaver's dimples led to higher feelings of maternal affection between mothers and daughters, which in turn led to more confidence for females in the workplace later. So the team that discovered this correlation, this is the Emotional Relations Task Force that we're talking about, was later directly responsible for determining the readiness of Americans for the violence of the Gulf War. And what they did was collaborate with John Hughes on Homeland, a lot of unrestrained violence from Macaulay Culkin. And it's all I am at liberty to say is that it's no coincidence that Home Alone 2 was released of the Gulf War. So to make a long story short, the JCESC has grown into an extremely powerful corporation, and by the time I had joined in 2002, it was already fairly well established leader in science. Yeah. So I got a call from Marcy Johnson about early in May of 2002, and she had asked me to join in on the objects of celebrity origin. And at the time, I was a geologist at the University of Wisconsin. I was mainly interested in studying rocks, but I'm just I'm just as interested in Boys to Men as any other geologist. So, so I decided to take the job. I had very little interest in celebrities outside of the R&D community. So I was a little upset when I was assigned to be the geologist for Pete Wentz, because I hadn't any Fallout Boys or like that. But I came to love it, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what it means to be Pete Wentz, an earth scientist. So the first and most important thing to know about being a napkin rock collector is that I cannot ever let Pete Wentz know that I'm doing it. He obviously can't know what I'm doing. That's just to Niels Bohr principle, which says that if you observe an experiment, you're going to affect the outcome. So Pete Wentz hasn't known that I've been going through his jackets and undergarments for the past 11 years and saving his lint and napkins in an archive. That's just part of my job. The main work, though, comes to lab when I get the napkins back there. I place them in a what's called a Colbert crucible, which will shred the napkins and arrange the components of the napkins by density. So, for example, here, I wanted to get a little reminiscent here. My first napkin from Pete Wentz had ketchup in it, and when I placed it in the crucible, it broke down into a tomato paste, corn syrup, and vinegar, which, that's just what ketchup is. Okay, well, I see I'm running a little short on here, so I'm just going to discuss the largest accomplishment with Pete Wentz. Late 2004, Pete Wentz was in a very high period, very happy time. He had just released an album that had gone double platinum, and he wanted to change his lookup from a 20 centimeter average radius gene to only a 15 centimeter radius gene. And after analyzing napkin samples taken from his right and left pocket region, I had to see skinnier jeans had led to a glandular disorder. Thighs. And of course I'd go out and tell him, you know, that I had been looking at napkins. So I talked to the Fallout Boy Medical Department down in South Carolina, who later subversively talked to his agent into having him rock out to Adenosis concert benefit, where he actually tested positive for hypothyroidism. And upon this diagnosis, Pete Wentz experienced a 3 Bertaux increase in sensitivity. He became a lot more sad and receptive, which actually we found the great success of the album Infinity on High. And the great success of Infinity on High, I was tracking this all the way through, a 4 increase in the sensitivity of female girls aged 15 to 19. This 40 Bertaux increase in emotional sensitivity led to a 160 Bertaux increase in the production of poetry. And now we discovered that 2020 is predicted to have the largest number of poets per square mile seen since 1910. And all of this, this whole train of thought spread forth from just some napkins found in his pocket, and that's why we saved those 4 napkins in the clean crystal and heat-resistant case, because they are actually an important part of history. And that's all I have for you folks. Thanks a lot for coming in. Does anyone have any questions about what it's like being a celebrity geologist? I can answer to the best of my ability.
I missed what a Bertaux is. Can you explain?
A Bertaux is a standard motion unit created in I believe 1943 by Donald Bertaux. Basically, it was measured. They would tell you a different amount of a terrible event, and then that was the standard by which they set up a Bertaux. So, for example, 20 Bertaux is like your distant aunt just. And they're different for different people. There's a Midwestern Bertaux, and then there's a South American Bertaux. They vary. Anyone? Yeah, that's about all I can say. Yeah, sure.